Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to American Vindicta. I'm your host, Doug Thornton. Today we have on with us Robert Griswold of Ready Made Resources. Today we're going to be talking about some active shooters that are going on, some other active terrorism events that are going on, what's happening in Pakistan with the power grid, and also an update on the upcoming training in February that should be hopefully getting you ready to handle these types of adverse events when they happen and you're not prepared for it. Bob, thanks for coming on. Let's get started.
Doug, it's a pleasure to be here. We just see another mass shooting down in Louisiana. 12 people were shot. We at the Monterey Park one, another person just died. So it brings that death count up to 11. It's just, you pointed it out so good at the last class that these rate of these shootings are increasing exponentially in the United States. And, I would venture to say that myself, somebody listening to this program today is going to find themselves in that active shooter scenario one day. And I don't care how much guns you have, how much food you have. I don't care any of that. If you're not trained with the equipment, it doesn't matter. Your chances of survival and engagement like that are going to be very, very small. One of the lessons, we just went out to SHOT Show, every man's candy store. SHOT Show in Las Vegas. And that's the thing. My son and I, we had enough frequent flyer miles, so we got to do the first class route, which he likes. And so we were, row 2 or 3. And I said, how would you get out of the plane, Joshua? And he goes, well, there's the door right there. I said, what if that door's on fire or breach or blocked or whatever? What would you do? How many seats behind us is the exit row? I don't know. Well, you should know. I mean, training of that nature, you should know how to exfil an airplane. It just requires training, because without that training, we saw it at the last class. There are all levels of proficiency. Some were more proficient than the others. And you realize that some of those people had a lot of upgrading to do before they could even hope to engage in that type of thing with an active shooter, keeping presence of mind to know how to exfil, get out of it if you can, or how to engage with it if you have to. And again, going back to my premise, I don't care how many guns you have. You might have 1 million rounds of ammunition and all the AR-15s and whatever you could ever hope for. But if you're not practicing, if you're not training actively with it, you have a false hope. You're hoping that AR-15 is way overrated, because there's a good chance that active shooter has trained, has practiced. And if that's the case, it's the same thing. When I was in my 20s, 30s, 40s, and even up in my early 50s, when I was doing judo, I don't care if the guy was much bigger than me. I was a fairly proficient practitioner of judo or jujitsu. And, I could really manhandle them pretty well. Even though they were big and strong and had all the muscles and all that, I could manhandle them pretty well because I had trained and had the technique. And so a much smaller force that's trained can easily overcome a larger force that's not trained or less trained. And that's the thing I just want to point out to people. I don't care how many guns you have, what you think, and all the bravado, that you can talk about. If you have not trained, if you're not training, I would not want you around me during an active shooter situation, because you're just going to make matters worse, most likely. Maybe collateral damage, shoot me, shoot yourself, shoot somebody that shouldn't be shot. And so the training that you're offering on February 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 at Ready Made Resources here, along with medical training, Steve Ray's 18 Delta Green Beret medic, is absolutely essential in the days which we live. And if you're not doing that, I can't emphasize how much under the power curve you are. And I want to say just up front, I don't make any money on this. Doug Thornton, if you like him, support him. I mean, I was actually looking at another course similar to this. I won't say who was offering it, but it was $1,600. So it's almost twice the cost. So for the same amount of time, 4 days, $1,600. So, basically you and Steve Rays are going to split if $800 a person, that's $200 each per day. And so you and him will get $100 per day off each student. Wow. That's a fantastic bargain. I can't believe how good a bargain you're giving people. That is. And you walk away with an absolute, just a treasure trove of knowledge, which I think, Doug, maybe you comment on this. You're training people to train other people, correct?
Well, that's the goal. This is community preparedness training. All right. This isn't to make you SWAT team proficient. This isn't to make you a special forces sniper. It's none of that stuff. We are making you proficient enough, and we're breaking everything down Barney style, simple enough. And you know me, there's no yelling, there's no bravado. I am what you see. I'm very easygoing, and I I will sit there and talk to a stranger for 2 or 3 hours. It doesn't matter. I want to help people. I one of the guys that was at the last course, just randomly at night while we're smoking pipes and cigars around the campfire, we talked how to hold a pistol correctly for about 35 minutes. I'm off the clock. I didn't have to do that. But I love teaching. I love teaching and knowing that people are prepared. If you're prepared, then that helps me be more prepared, because a prepared society is a society that is ready to embrace the suck. A ill-prepared society is a society that is ready to turn into, the
Victims.
most despot place you could. It's war as Mexico overnight.
Yeah.
All right.
They're waiting to turn into victims.
Well, you're
body count.
You're either going to be an asset or you're going to be a liability. And here is the day where I will say I'm officially here to step on many of your toes who are listening to me. Hope you still subscribe afterwards, but you are not as prepared as you think you are.
One of the things that Doug, I think you did real well is there's a lot of stuff that comes out of left field at them when they're training. You think you're going to do one thing and you're going in to, shoot the bad guy, and all of a sudden left field shows up. What do they call it? Murphy shows up, Murphy's Law. Murphy shows up, and it's like, whoa, I didn't even think that way. And so it gets people thinking, when Murphy shows up, what do I do? And I really like that about the training, because, Murphy will always show up in those situations, and you're going to have to deal with it. So I'm not going to give any of it away, but there was a lot of things introduced that are not what people would have expected, and that really just opens the horizons of their mind to what could they face potentially should that have come about. So if
we like to do, I like to do scenario based training. And let me talk about this real quick. Scenario based training is exactly what the military and law enforcement goes through, and that is to train the mind to deal with people. All right. I am not here to create a paper target Terminator. Anybody can stand in front of a paper target and put holes in it all day, albeit all over the place or in a nice tight group. It really doesn't matter. Because if I can influence you, if I can add in a distraction, if I can interrupt your OODA loop, if I can make you think or hesitate, hesitation is a killer. This is when your training will kick in. If you are firing your pistol, if you're firing your pistol and all of a sudden your mag drops out, what do? If all of a sudden you're firing your pistol and now you have a catastrophic malfunction, like what happened on the range, if you have, a stovepipe, if you have a double feed and you've never messed with that before, or if you have some weird ass gun that no one really knows what to do anything with, and no one knows how to clear it, and you don't, and you bought it because you think it looks cool, how does that help you, right? If you don't know the difference between a semi-automatic pistol, so like this is one of the airsoft pistols that we train with. All right. If you don't know, this is a Glock 19X, more or less recreation. And I mean, it actually blows back whenever it fires. So the upper slide is reciprocating. You can lock it back. You can insert a new mag and send the slide forward just like you do a regular Glock. And because this thing is more or less a high-powered toy, it malfunctions every now and then, which is great. Because when it malfunctions, that means you occasionally have to, reseat the magazine, tap, rack, and then get back into firing, which is great because that's how you die. You die not knowing how to work these things. And there are plenty of rookie cops out there who died because they didn't pay attention in class, or because, and I'm not going to pick on anybody, but there are some people who just pass because, they need people to pass. But there are people who die because they don't know how to work this weapon, yet they'll carry it 24/7 for 20 years and pull it out once or twice. And the time that they have to pull it out on somebody, and I've seen some cops do this, they're doing this, shaking the entire time. You can hear the gun rattling. And I've seen this, and I ask myself, how long have you been a cop for? Or guys in the military. And instead of wanting to hold their ground and think your way through the problem, immediately, what do we think? Bayonet them to death, pump them full of holes. And hold on, we need to let's start a conversation. Don't kill anybody. Let's talk for a second, and maybe we can talk this dude off the cliff and solve a problem here. This is not the end all be all. This, your mind, your M1 brain that sits in between your M1 eyeballs, is your end all be all. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know how to think and talk during a very, very dramatic situation, you're going to make mistakes. We're here to help you guide and navigate yourself through those mistakes.
That's an excellent point too, because that's one of the things that our church security we do. If somebody comes in and, they do start to presenting a threat, first thing we want to do is talk them down. Hey, we're a church. We can help you. God can help you. We're here for you. Let us do whatever we need to do. Just calm down, that type of thing. Talk them off the cliff. The last thing I want to do is have to shoot somebody. Now, if they come out shooting, then there's no time for that. And then you've got to react appropriately.
Yeah. I've trained a couple of church security teams, and being someone who was a former use of force instructor, so that means I trained cops on how to use force correctly. I put a church security team through just a very basic domestic disturbance to see what these people would think and do. And they all have rubber guns, right? And so one of the guys who had been on the church security team for like a good year or two, immediately upon the scenario-based training of a man and a woman arguing about custody battle over a child, go ahead and think that won't happen to you, church. Happens all the time. Our security guard decided to shoot the man who was actually in the right and being accosted by the woman. So once again, training, and just because you have a gun doesn't always mean you need to use a gun. Cops 99% of the time don't use their guns. We use the verbal judo. We use the power and presence of an officer, the officer's presence, knowing how to speak to people in a commanding fashion. That's some of the things that we teach people. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, no, it's just that's what it is. And so if you own a firearm, if you carry a firearm and you've never been to any class, I would recommend Doug's, but any class, go to any class. Mm-hmm. You need, as long as they're credible. There's a lot of people out there that have taught people things, well, my brother-in-law knows a cop and he did some training. That's not what we're talking about.
Avoid karate classes with guns.
Yes. But precisely, karate class might tell you how to take a gun away from somebody, but they're not going to teach you how to use it. But if you're interested in this, you can go to, I don't know if you can pull it up, readymaderesources.com.
I'll put it inside this video. You'll be able to see
it. Right across the top, there's a banner that says, train, click that and you can sign up for the class. But today's world is just getting more and more dangerous. The Antifa thing in Atlanta, our nation, because we have forsaken God, and actually not only forsaken God, but we're bringing in the ancient deities of gods that promoted violence, child sacrifice, child rape, slavery, all those pantheon of gods that the Christian church drove out for 2,000 years. We are now welcoming them back in. And with those fallen deities, they're actually demonic or angelic spirits that are doing this. Violence is always part and parcel with it. If you remember when the angels went to Sodom, the men of Sodom came to the angels and said, send them out that we may violently know them, homosexually rape them. That's what they said. And, so as we see this society become more and more pagan, if you can't put two and two together, even as a basic intelligence reasoning, that violence is going to dramatically increase. And, you really need to go back to school and figure it out, because that's exactly what's going to happen. We're going to see more and more violence, and your ability to train for it and react to it it might be not only your life, but also the lives of your family or other people. Well, I'm going to change, now that we've covered that, I want to change, gears a little bit. This morning I called you up and mentioned that Pakistan, 220 million people in Pakistan, that the power grid went down. Now, of course, the government's always going to put a certain spin on it, so that they don't have to admit that there was a state action against them, another state actor, India or whatever. But it just shows you they shut down basically the whole nation's power grid, 220 million people. And right now in America, we're watching the probing of our power grid over and over and over again. And it's just a matter of time before we have a cascading power failure like this. And Doug, why don't you comment on that? I mean, good grief. Power goes down. You're a use of force instructor. You've been a police officer. You've been a DHS. You've been a Marine. What happens when the power goes down? I mean, right now, they said the power's been down for several days in some places. What would happen in New York City, Los Angeles, Detroit, Miami, San Francisco, if the power went down for several days?
The first thing that's going to happen is going to be the calm. People will go outside. They'll be asking their friends, their families, their neighbors, what's going on? Do you have power? Do you have power? Is your cell phone working? And in case you didn't know this, everybody, if the power is down, your cell phone's not going to work. Your cell phone doesn't work. It's not that magical. Even satellite phones can still have issues during these times. So the first is going to be the calm of the storm. And then people are going to start to wake up to the reality of what's going on, probably after about 24 hours. So after about 24 hours, panic is going to start to set in. Within 72 hours, riots are going to start. And it'll be just like COVID. The riots will start at the Family Dollar, at the Dollar Tree, at your Walmart, your HEB for those of us here in Texas, your market baskets, wherever there are groceries, people are going to be fighting over them. So if you're not prepared for the food part, and you got to go in that store, what's going to be inserted in that store? Most likely, a lot of these things are going to be floating around in people's hands, either in their waistband, or people are going to come all tacticaled out. I'll be, walking in and out of their of their local grocery stores with their AKs and their M4s. You're also going to see kidnappings go up. People are going to be coming to and fro from grocery stores, daylight robberies, and
would you go to the grocery store at that time alone?
I would go to the grocery store with about 5 or 6 more of me, and God help you if you're in my way. In all honesty,
would you send a woman to go to the grocery store at that time?
No.
I know that sounds horribly sexist, and I'm sure it makes me a Neanderthal and a Cretan, but the reality of it would be the reality of it.
I'm going to say something that should be very clear to everybody listening to us. There's not a woman alive that can beat me, period. Not just the fact that, I am who I am, or I have the training I have, because it's in here. There's not a woman alive. There's not a man alive that can beat me. Now then, take anyone with my level of training, add in PTSD, add in drug abuse, and if you don't think criminals are as well trained as I am, or that terrorists are not as well trained as I am, then you haven't lived in my world. Because our criminals and terrorists, like Antifa, were going to Syria while the war was going on and getting trained by ISIS, and then coming back. And they were going to the cartels in Tijuana and getting trained. And who trained the cartels? Special operations from America and other countries. So these people are getting trained, and they will be mingled with you in the store, buying the Oreos right next to you. You have no idea who you're walking around. So what I would always suggest is, if you're going to go to the grocery store, especially as active shooters are increasing in intensity and in volume, always have a tourniquet on you and always have your gun on you. And if you can't go into a place openly carrying, then go concealed carry. If you can't carry a gun in any of these places, find a new place to shop or go in there and risk it.
Yeah, it's getting to that, especially when the power's down. It's going to get very desperate very
It's gonna be
quickly.
bad.
And I'll address the fact. So you've bought your groceries, the power's down. You've bought your groceries, and you're heading home. So when you leave the grocery store, the danger stops, right?
No, probably going to be multiple layers of battles here. And I want to say something real quick to any of the ladies that are out there. You are not incapable of self-defense. If anything, a lot of times I'd be more afraid of a woman with a gun than a man with a gun, because 99% of most men are peacocks. You're peacocks. I know, because I have fought every kind of man in this world, and 99% of you are peacocks. When you've worked in 4 penitentiaries, you learn men are peacocks. Men will raise their hands and all this. A woman who's afraid of a larger man will just shoot you. There's statistics to prove that.
Well,
Now, especially like my wife is not gun shy, especially with 5 kids. She's not gun shy at all. Um, there will be multiple battlegrounds. Women, the reason why we said you is because you are considered already by nature to be a target of availability. You are considered already to be a soft target. I would say that most women who carry their guns are not soft targets, but hey, real question, how much do you train with it? How much do you train with it? That's a personal question. You get to answer that one on your own. Hopefully, you don't have to answer it in the face of violence. But gas stations will be a tipping point. I mean, you thought the grocery store was bad when you went to the grocery store and you saw people galloping back and forth trying to take whatever they could. Then you went to the grocery store, because unlike the gas station, unlike the grocery store, which is very, very large and can hold a lot of people, gas stations aren't. Now, if the power's not on, how am I getting the gas out of the ground? Whatever's left in the reserve is what's over there. You don't think people are going to be finding those little the manhole covers and popping them and then taking freaking hoses and trying to siphon the gas right out of the ground? Absolutely, they will. People will go insane. People will bring in their own probably their own like Bobcat style welding machines that can be used as a generator just to hook up to suck the gas right up. People are very inventive, and when you start to see gas coming out of the ground and you are biker gang, street gang, ISIS, whatever, random crazy person who was not prepared, you don't know what you would do during those situations. But you see a commodity like gas. I've seen it whenever Hurricane Katrina and Rita hit in Southeast Texas. I was 16. I was in high school. We were at our cattle ranch, which is in Woodville, Texas. And in the area that we had lived at was right on the Gulf, and it was ground zero. Like FEMA had declared it ground zero. And the people were being killed at the gas pump. Okay. And then probably about 50 miles away, Woodville, Texas now, I remember all the hurricanes had passed through, and we had all the tornadoes, and power was out for about a month without power. And that sucked. We were having to use the big 50-gallon blue barrels to catch rainwater. And that was for bathing. We had tornadoes kicking off everywhere. Tornadoes destroyed our barn, killed a couple of cows, destroyed a lot of fence. We had meth heads coming around trying to steal calves. And they got a flash surprise. Let's say that from 30-6 yards away, they were being surprised. Don't steal the cows. And then with all the trees down, we're probably about 2 to 3 miles, maybe 4 miles from the ranch all the way to the actual county road. And all the trees were down. Well, our chainsaws ran out of gas mixed with oil. It ran out of all the fuel before we could get all the way out there. So we had to more or less cut new lanes to get out. And I was able to get my truck out, and I had gas cans that are empty, going down to the store. And when I get there, National Guard and the Sheriff's Department are saying you're only allowed so much gas. I think it was like $10, or excuse me, 10 gallons of gas. And then you could fill up, maybe a couple gas cans. So I had to go make multiple trips. Well,
And
on
Doug,
what
you remember seeing people trying to fill up laundry tubs,
every
baggies,
milk
everything,
jugs, milk
milk jug
jugs.
with gas. And I mean, just the most dangerous of situations where if you're in that environment and you got a guy with 20 gallons of gasoline
Gas was
in a
all over the
baggie,
ground.
yeah,
Gas was all over the ground. The sheriffs had to come in and step in and more or less say, no, you can't do that. You have to have this. All right. So, moral of the story is I think it was the second time I had done this. I watched a guy kill another guy over a can of chicken.
but going back to what I said about leaving the grocery store, there'll be people following you home to jack your car on the way home. And, this is where a convoy of 2 to 3 vehicles would be so important. And we don't think like that as Americans. We usually just going down to Wally World or Piggly Wiggly or whatever and just buying our groceries and driving home and maybe stopping by and get some gas or, whatever. But you have a grid down situation, which is coming. It's coming. And all of a sudden, the way you operate and move in that environment is going to completely change. And that's what we want to make people aware of. And going back to communication, I just want to mention again, we don't make money on this. We'll help you set it up. But my son and I were using the Meshtastic system today. We had it set up and we were texting each other back and forth across a private texting network. Now, it only goes a couple miles. I can set it up a hub. We maybe get 5 miles out of it. But if you have a neighborhood and you can set up that Meshtastic system and maybe and people you trust in that neighborhood, where if the comms go down, satellite goes down, everything goes down, as long as your cell phone will turn on, you can text each other. My son and I were texting back and forth, just practicing with the Meshtastic system. Again, I'll be glad to help anybody set up that system that wants to, because your cell phone could go down, your landlines could go down, internet could go down, but that Meshtastic system is going to work for a local communication. Now, you're not going to go 20 miles across town. You're not going to do it. But for the people in your immediate area of operation, you'd be able to text them and coordinate efforts to prevent bad guys from doing what bad guys do. Doug, I know we talked about this beforehand. Wall Street Journal right now commenting on it, that the U.S. is not ready to fight China. The U.S. Secretary of the Navy came out the other day and said that the U.S. is having a very, very hard time supplying weapons for itself and Ukraine, which I couldn't believe he said that. But today, the Wall Street Journal had an article that we're not ready for a war with China, that we are having, that the defense industry is having a very difficult time resupplying weapons, and that we're at the lowest inventory of weapons we've been at in decades. That's Wall Street Journal. So you can pull it up.
I can assure you, we are not ready for war with anybody. We are ready for war with terrorists, domestically, because we're set up for that. Internationally, I guess, but in order to have this major war against China, which will be on every front, it's going to be financially, it's going to be in space, it's going to be cyber, it's going to be naval, it'll be air, it'll be ground, and it'll be infiltration operations. There's too many loopholes. It's the reason why the Nazis couldn't stop us when we got into Germany. We got in. They tried to blockade us, as you recall. They tried it. And guess what? We got in first before anyone knew anything that happened. And we started immediately doing assassination missions and intelligence gathering missions. Our spies were already there. You don't think they're spies? Hell,
they had partisans.
Walwell.
Partisans. And believe me, the Chinese have partisans in the United States today. The Russians have partisans in the United States today.
Hell, they're called lobbyists.
Yeah.
They're lobbyists. They're in your government, telling your government what to do. What do you think we're all doing at WEF?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's America is selling themselves like a whore at WEF. Hey, Klaus, How can we help you with the global agenda? You want to sexualize our kids? Man, we're right there with you. You want us to shut off our power? Well, we're working on it. You want us to demilitarize the people of America? Well, a few more incidents and we'll be able to declare that one legally. How about
See,
this? How about this? Right now, they're calling everything gun violence with these two latest active shooters. Did they ever describe? Did they ever describe 9/11 as airplane violence? No. Did they ever describe anytime there was a vehicle ramming attack as vehicle violence? No. Well, we
or
have
most of them, you
coordinated
wouldn't
government
describe it as.
terms for this.
Most of it is Democrat violence because most of
Oh,
them are Democrats that do this,
hey, there's
but
a
they don't call it
Democratic lady. Her son was just arrested in Atlanta. Her son, her trans son. One article said that he was a boy. The other article said he was a girl. He was a terrorist.
And what about the Pelosi's? What I mean, that guy, they tried to paint him as a MAGA guy. He was another Democrat. But yeah. So going back to this thing, we're losing the war in Ukraine. I don't know if you've listened to any of the John Ritter or Scott Ritter interviews. We're losing this war. And he made an excellent point. So we introduced Tiger tanks or Leopard tanks. We introduced the U.S. tank. We introduced the British tank. All this, we're introducing Patriot missiles. These are all complex weapon systems that take years of training to do. And so instead of what the Russians are good, the Ukrainians are good with, Russian tanks, you're going to throw in a lot of new equipment they don't have any idea how to maintain.
You have to have advisors.
You're going to actually degrade the performance of the army because they're not going to know how to use the stuff.
Well, so hold on. It's not just the fact that it takes years to understand these vehicles. I've ridden a few tanks, and I'm not a tanker. So if you put me in a tank, I could probably find the driving mechanisms and figure out how to mess with that. I've driven plenty of Bobcats and tractors before. I could figure that out. But all the rest of it, okay, an average tanker team should be able to figure it out. But the more upgraded the weaponry and the less trained, that means the little technical fractures that happen here and there in between the translation of shell coming out of loading bay and into the actual main cannon, especially as these things become automated, if they don't know the little hints, the little tips of how to work yourself around a problem that the tank is always having, and they're having to learn it on the fly. And yet, meanwhile, Russia knows everything about their tanks and has designed their tanks to kill our tanks. This automatically creates a very, very bad element. There's a vacuum of intelligence within knowing your weapons operating system. Who's going to fix the tanks? Tanks are down all the time. Tanks
exactly, and then you have a Leopard tank. You have a Leopard tank. You have an Abrams tank. You have a Polish tank.
Multinational tanks.
Yeah,
there's not an O'Reilly's for tank service.
No, and then you have different weapon systems. You have Patriot missiles. Yeah, and how much of it then will end up on the black market to begin with?
Yep.
And then if we do put our best weapons over there, and then the Russians capture it, we just give away a treasure trove of intelligence.
Sensitive material. That's why you're supposed to,
like we did in Afghanistan, like we left that $82 billion in Afghanistan.
That's why, like with most of our sensitive equipment, you're supposed to either put a frag in it or thermite it, melt it to the best of your ability. Don't give anything to the enemy, right? But it's literally just being probably disassembled and carted over there, most likely. I hate to say it like this, but they're Ukrainians. They've been doing this stuff. They've been selling our equipment to everyone else in the world. You don't think at one point in time during a ceasefire, hey, comrade, let me get them tracks. We'll pay you in marblos. Man, they disassemble the tracks on a tank so fast just to get some fresh smokes. I know how soldiers work. And Ukraine is the most corrupt government in the world, which makes me assume that it's the most corrupt army in the world. Oh, by the way, they're Nazis. The better half of them are Nazis. So yeah, you know what? Let's give them nuclear bombs. Let's give them the keys to the red phone. we'll give you the coordinates of where all the subs are, because I'm sure you could, Ukraine could probably use our nuclear subs, right? They use some Trident missiles every now and then. We are losing our minds. Vladimir Putin is laughing his ass off. He's going to win the conflict. However, if he loses, let's see how you debate me on this. If they lose, I bet you he will use the nukes. What do you
Well,
think?
that's what Mendevez is saying right now, is that they will not lose. If they do lose, they will use nuclear weapons. They already stated that. And there's an article. Let me see if I can't find it here. Heir to Putin. This is on the Daily Star, UK Daily Star. It says this, that heir to Putin controls an army of rapists that would push the nuclear weapon. So they get rid of Vladimir Putin and they put somebody else in, the heir apparent. And this guy evidently makes Putin look like a choir boy.
Hey,
He's got his own private army of rapists.
Pause for a second. Your camera's glitching.
Okay, let me get back there.
I promise this isn't poltergeist, ladies and gentlemen. It's a glitch.
But no, so we get rid of Putin, and in worst case, Russia fragments, and then you put another guy who's even a more degenerate in, that's got his own private army of rapists. I mean, it's a lose-lose situation. This is why we should never have gotten involved here to begin with. It was not our conflict to fight, and we see right now, I think, with the exposure of the bioweapons labs that were there, the money laundering, the sex trafficking, the organ harvesting that's there, obviously billions and billions of dollars are being filtered back
there. What haven't they done?
Yeah. I mean, well, anything. And Zelensky, I mean, he's gotten rid of all his opposition, closed down free speech, gotten rid of the Russian Orthodox Church, refuses to allow people to speak their ethnic Russian.
He started deporting church leaders. Did you hear about this? Yep. He de-passported them. He kicked them out of Ukraine. You can't preach the holy word of God. You got to preach the holy word of Ukraine, which has the two lightning bolts on it.
So, but on top of that, that we can't replace the weapon systems that are right now. Let's see here. I've got the story pulled up. That we are not capable right now. We're not meeting our recruit demands. In fact, the recruitment for the U.S. Army is at its lowest since there has been a non-draft army. So we're not being able to meet these demands, the manpower demands. So it doesn't matter how many weapons you have if you don't have the manpower to do it. So here we are on the cusp of World War III. And we do not have the weapon systems to fight it. And we don't have the manpower to even use those weapon systems. So that would leave us with a draft. And you know what happens when you start drafting? I mean, the quality of the army goes down dramatically. You get people that don't want to be there.
Let me show a video to y'all. Me and Bob have already reviewed it, but I want to give you an example of what's going on in Ukraine for their recruitment. This should be, I guess it's like a commercial. It'll probably soon be a commercial for the recruitment in Ukraine. Here, once again, we are not fancy over here. Everything is done by analog. Stand by. Okay. All right. Hey, look, there we are. Can you see this, Bob?
It is the recruitment officer.
All right. Here they come in the recruitment van. Here's the guy sitting right here. Recruitment officers are talking to him. Hey, man, you want that college degree? Welcome to the army in Ukraine.
And that guy, he's going to be the landmine checker.
Pulled off the street. Pulled off the street. All right,
family doesn't know what happens to him. He's in the army now.
I got another video like that where they did the same thing to a man who's probably in his late 40s, early 50s. Listen, this is who we decided to side with. We sided with. You don't think that intelligence officers know what's going on. You don't think that intelligence officers are then making those intelligence reports and they're working their way up the chain, which then gets into the House Intelligence Committee where all the big wigs are sitting around, and you don't think that they get to watch that? Okay. The fact that they do and they don't tell you should tell you a few things. For one thing, why don't we know about this? Why are we openly supporting it to the tune of going to war, World War III over it? Two, is this the future of America? If these people support this and they condone this and they don't come out against it, then they are for it and they're your leaders. What happens when Russia and China come here? Same tactic. They learned it in Ukraine. We have observers, advisors, we have inserted guys who have infiltrated the systems. They're part of the Ukraine military, they're part of the Ukrainian government that are getting every bit of intelligence as possible, giving it back to us, and we know all the dirty deeds. We know them all. Obama knew them all. Biden knew them all. And yet we still decide to align ourselves with these people. Now, if Russia knows that we know all this, and Russia's about to kick the ass of the Ukrainians for good this time, probably, do you think he'll stop at Ukraine if we keep interfering? No. They'll eventually be forced to come here to stop the threat. You want to know why, Bob? And I'll give this right back to you.
Doug, wait, describe come here. Come here doesn't necessarily mean
No,
land troops.
They're going to invade. We invaded Iraq over nothing. Nothing. We should have invaded Saudi Arabia, not Afghanistan. Not some dipshit out in the weeds and in the caves of Afghanistan. We have Hellfire missiles that could have found him. We had CIA who knew where he was the whole time. Him and all of his cronies and his 70 sons. We knew all of them. We did nothing about it, though. But we started an international war. We started the Patriot Act, and we started to suppress the American people and put our thumb on top of you. What do you think Russia will do? Think Russia will stand by and wait for us to nuke their grid? You think Russia will stand by and wait for us to ruin the ruble? No. That's an empire. If we had half the tenacity of Russia, Russia would be back in the cave, regretting the day the bear ever came out. However, it's the complete opposite because your leaders, their hands are in the pockets of the Russians and have been the whole time. Same with the Chinese.
So Doug, we've addressed just a few situations the world's facing right now. Not the debt, not the border crossing with the fentanyl and all that, not the internal strife in the United States, which not
the weather wars.
Yeah. I always, and I know you do too. We mentioned what people can do. First of all, that class that you have. What are other things people really need to be doing right now?
I'll tell you this. Before coming to my class, you need to get right with Christ. That's the first thing you need to do. Stop playing games with God. Change your ways. Take the redemptive blood of Christ. Pick up the sword. Join the phalanx with us and get prepared. You need self-reliance, which is what this government doesn't want you to have. The government doesn't want you to own books. They want you to own a phone with books on it so that when the power goes out, you ain't got nothing. Pretty smart stuff. They don't want you to have knowledgeable skills, trade skills. Everybody's got a damn degree and half of them are stupider than a box of rocks. They don't want you to be self-sufficient so that your community can then come and say, hey, Bob, you're an intelligent guy. You got all this crazy stuff. Can you help us teach us how to be like you so that we can all be successful? And you know what happens? Bob says, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a community prepper.
If you're successful, I'm successful. If you're an asset and he's an asset, then we have less liabilities. Liabilities, lie, cheat, steal, home invade, rape, rob. They give information over to the enemy. They will bow down to any oppressor immediately. They'll capitulate or become an asset and resist these things. You can't do it if you don't have the blood of Christ on you, though. I'm telling you right now, because things will happen on this earth that men's hearts will fail them for fear of what's coming. Jesus said, when he comes back, will there be any faith left in the land? Heck, I can't get people, Bob, to go out and walk for 30 minutes half the time. You get people calling you saying that I'm not even a Christian. And here I am yelling at people saying, get off your couch and go for a walk. Save yourself. But
yeah, it is. It's the time for armchair quarterbacks, the time for, lounge lizards. That's what my mother used to call them, lounge lizards. It's over. If you don't take the twilight in which we have, because the spiritual war coming alone is going to be catastrophic. We are, you introduced me to Mondo Gonzalez, the prophecy watchers. I'm going to be doing a program with him February 13th. And this is what we're going to be talking about. The deception coming in and of itself is going to be beyond human capacity to withstand it. You will not be able to stand against it in your own strength. What is coming? It's what's here right now also, but it's just going to get worse and worse. And so it's what my brother says, get your heart right with the Lord Jesus Christ first and foremost. And then, we do that. And then God leads you as his ambassador, not only to instruct other people how to get their hearts right with the Lord Jesus Christ, but God gave us civility. God gave us law so that we can maintain order among men, peace among men. It's the enemy that wants to take that peace away. It's the enemy that wants to create war. It's the enemy that wants to create strife. It's the enemy that wants to look at my black brother or my Asian brother, whatever, and say, I have to hate them. That's their gig. That's not my gig. That's their gig. And so, as an ambassador of Christ, I'm going to promote his gospel. And second of all, I want to have equipment and knowledge and training and supplies so that I can help those in time of need. That's my MO. That's what I want to do. And there are many people that think, that somehow God is going to drop it in their lap at the last minute. I've got news for you. It ain't happening. It's just not going to happen. And so,
two little pieces of information here. For one thing, I want to raise up a nation of warrior priests.
Absolutely.
That's what I want. That's why on the back of my emblem, right below this big pretty gun, it says Wrecker Nation. All Wrecker means is a warrior man who defines himself by the deeds that he does on the battlefield, right? That unlike a soldier who is either conscripted or that is his job to be a warrior, a person who is a warrior within their heart, like all of us who should be warriors in of our heart within our love for Christ, that is the asset that I want to raise up. I don't need all these people and all their ideas when they can't even give themselves over to the simple fact that there's things called sin. And training story time is probably not a good place to be, taking your kids to. But if you want to, by all means, don't come to my training. You can go to someone else's, because I don't even want to associate with you people. I don't want to sit down and break bread with you. I don't want to have a cup of water with you, because we have gotten to the point in time where you have become so delusional that there's almost nothing I could do or say to convince you that you have surrendered yourself to the enemy. You have chosen good over evil. In fact, you call evil good and good evil. And if here we are telling you about these, earthly things of how to get prepared. Okay, I'm going to kind of emulate the master here for a second. If I'm telling you how to do earthly things to get prepared, and you're not even listening whenever we talk about the heavenly ways to get prepared, and then you can walk on down the street to somebody else. The easiest thing you could do is surrender yourself to Christ. Second from there is get a good group of people to be around, not a militia. Don't go that way. Not a militia. There's all different types of little groups that you can join, people you can talk with. We'll give you the basic training that you can go back and show your family. If anything, there's a family unit, actually, Bob, who reached out, and it's a father, wife, and I believe a son and a daughter who are going to come for this training, because we are preparing people specifically for this training for a grid down. how to prepare yourself for a major grid down. What are you most likely going to need? You're going to need to know how to do a little bit of SEER operations, a little bit of survival operations, maybe some reconnaissance in there, maybe a little bit of evasion. You're going to need how to know basic tactics with just yourself, with two people, maybe with four people. You're going to need how to know how to handle somebody inside a vehicle or yourself inside a vehicle going into a hallway or a doorway. I mean, you should know that already. If you own a gun, you should be the master of your castle and you should be practicing to fight it or to fight for it at least. And then the medical training. You can have all the cool training in the world that you want, but the first time you get shot in the leg, you got about 17 to 30 seconds, maybe 40 if you're lucky, before you bleed out and die. Something really simple called a tourniquet that we're going to teach you how to put on. And then from there, assessing how to keep the patient alive. Because in real life, even whenever you get hit, you can still get up and move. But there are other times when you can't move at all and you have to have direct pressure on top of a wound and you have to assess people. You have to treat for shock. You may even have to evacuate them and monitor them the entire time. And guess what, dads? If what I'm saying right now is making you tired or sleepy and it's your kid that gets shot and they bleed out because you decided to go for another fishing trip or to go to Vegas with your buddies and not get at least $850 worth of training. There are dudes in this industry who will charge you $900 a day for 4 hours on the range, punching holes in a target from 10 meters away with a rifle or a pistol. I'm giving you 4 days of my life to teach you what I've learned in 15 years. Take the time to learn to prepare for yourself and your family. Be
Doug,
an asset.
Anybody that has never
looked at the night vision training. We're going to do night vision training.
You're going to be able to put lead on steel at night using this device. You're going to see what it's like to be able to use this device. If you don't have the night vision, we will have a night vision device with a laser that you can shoot. That you'll see what it's like to be able to engage, a target at night with night vision. That's going to be part of the training. And so, I don't think anybody is offering this kind of training for people.
Nobody will come to this course and say they didn't learn anything.
Nobody will come to this course that doesn't walk away recommending it to other people.
I don't care who is out there. I just talked to a newfound friend of mine who was a part of DevGru, SEAL Team 6. We talked about the training coming up. You know what he said? Why don't we teach people this type of stuff? Like, doesn't that make sense? Why we don't have our own civilians at a certain level of preparedness? You're prepared to send.
Well. Let's stop here.
You're prepared to send.
What did Barack Obama want? What did Barack Obama want? He wanted a civilian army that trained just as good as the military. And you know what? They have it. BLM, Antifa.
Hey, you know what? We can give it to them. We can give that to them. Come to the training. We'll teach you. We'll teach you because people of God, those of you who fear God, Jesus did not say, sell your cloak and buy a sword for no reason. But Jesus also, for all you sensationalists out there, and I know I've been on this sensationalism kick the other day. It's because a few people emailed me and pissed me off. But for all you sensationalists out there who see a demon behind every corner and everything is a boogeyman and Doug's part of the Illuminati and I'm a Satanist and all this other bullshit, guess what? The giants aren't going to kick your door in. The aliens aren't going to kick your door in. Well, if you ask Timothy Alberino, they may suck you out of the door. But what's really going to happen? It's not going to be the Illuminati. It's not going to be the lizard people from the backside of the moon. It's going to be a meth head who hasn't had his fix in a couple days, and he'll do anything to then pacify the derangement that's in his rotten brain. If it means kicking your door down to get to anything in your house, which also means your precious wife and kids, they'll do it because they've been doing it. They've been doing it in this damn area that I'm in right now. Another child missing. All right. You think these things are bad now. You thought the 70s was bad with the drugs. Buddy, have you seen 2030 yet? They got a whole new thing in store for you. WEF has a whole new list of goodies for you. The brain chips, taking away your power, no vehicles, no guns, no TV, but you'll have your cell phones. No money, Bob. You won't be allowed to have money. You'll have your digital money, which you can get on your cell phone, though. No books. Why? Because books are racist and misogynistic. But you can have your cell phone. This is your deplatform from this. Deplatform from this damn abominable device that's called a cell phone that's sucking the life out of half of you right now, that are rotting away in your easy boy chairs and in your recliners. You almost look like a couch pillow. Get yourself off this phone. Go outside and walk. Go. Push-ups are free. Walking and running is free. Go join a jiu-jitsu class, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu class, and actually learn self-defense. Help, point kickboxing, boxing. I mean, if you want to be devastating, honestly, boxing is the real way. Go and learn something. Get your concealed carry license. All right. Be active in your self-protection. That is up to you. The military trained me. Law enforcement continued that training. But the criminals, for all of you who naysay, they got this training. They continue to get the training. Hello, CIA, who continues to train them overseas. They're trained. Why aren't you trained? Answer that question. Why are you not trained? And are you confident with your skills for where you're at? Like I said, you don't have to come see me. You don't have to, because it has nothing to do about Doug's ego. If this was about Doug's ego, you'd be paying $2,000 for 4 days of training, which is probably what we're rightly owed. But instead, this is about getting all of this knowledge into the heads of the people. Everything that will get paid, that's to just cover our travel cost. We're making money on what we're doing. We're doing it because we love to do it. All right, Bob, I've complained for 55 minutes. I'll give you the last 5 minutes to you.
No, the thing is that we really do need to take it serious. Anybody who's looking at the situation, any kind of credible manner knows that this system is collapsing at light speed. And you're going to be on the side that has the solutions, or you're going to be one of the people that are out looking to victimize other people because you failed to do that. And most of those people that are in that category are not going to fare well. They're just not. It's not going to take long before people see somebody coming up to the house or whatever, and they're going to deal with them very harshly. So you have a choice right now what to do. And this is what I tell people. They can call. They can call Doug or I, and we'll talk to you about the Lord and how to get your heart right with the Lord. Or if you want to call us at Ready Made Resources, we'll help you devise a plan of preparedness, physical preparedness for your family. And a lot of it will depend on your geographic location, your political area, the area of what politics are in your area, the size of your family, the type of family you have, old, young, medical needs, no medical needs. All those things come into play. I don't charge for that. You can call me at 800-627-3809 or visit our website at readymaderesources.com. I do want to give a shout out to Aiden Tate from the Organic Prepper, theorganicprepper.com. He just wrote an article on the need for night vision, and you can go to that website, The Organic Prepper. I don't know if you can link it, but it's an excellent article he wrote. And you have a grid down situation. That's when night vision is going to be absolutely worth more than its weight in gold.
Hey, two things for you. For any of you people out there who scoff about night vision, look, I understand this stuff's expensive. I get it. Your big screen TV is expensive too. All right. Your vacation to pedophile Disneyland is expensive as well. Go ask your police department, sheriff's department, or your local recruiting office for the military how important night vision and training is.
Yeah, find an SF guy, Navy SEAL, Green Beret, Ranger, Parajumper, any of those guys, and ask them.
Standard Marine Corps infantry, who's better than all of them.
Yeah. How important was night vision to you in XYZ war zone?
Yeah. Look, and there are other alternatives to the more expensive stuff. You're going to be carrying another device soon. Can we let people know what that's going to be?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you're talking about thermal. We're going to be carrying a digital night vision that we're setting up an account for right now. It's not as good as military night vision, but for those on a more restricted budget, you're sub $1,000. So, and there'll even be financing available for that. We should have that product online. ATN. We met them at SHOT Show, and they've agreed to let us set up an account. We looked up. They have binoculars, rifle scopes that are all done in digital. So, we will have that available probably by the end of next week.
And look, one of the things I like to tell people, Bob, is just the ability to see at night is already a game changer. There's a reason why in the military we talk about owning the night. And when I can see you before you can ever see me, that means a lot. It's a reason why we use it.
Gosh,
all right.
Yeah.
To me, is a reason why China wants their hands, and Russia wants their hands on what we have, because we have the pro stuff. We have the best stuff that's out there. But even, on the commercial side for the hunting, even if you have to go the hunting route and get like the ATN hunting scopes and all this other stuff, and there's another company out there, Psionics. They're cheap. You can, if you go to T-Rex Arms YouTube channel, you can actually look up the difference between a digital camera that has night vision capability, Psionics, which is a digital camera that has color night vision, which is cool. All right. And then actual night vision. And night vision destroys them all every time on every scale because there's no lag time. I have thermals. Hell, somewhere around here. I have this thermal, and man, I've been using this since I was on the border. All right. And I probably need to replace this unit for the amount of times that I've dropped it in water and it's, all different types of stuff, but it has lag time. So what does that mean? That means I'll be looking at something and all of a sudden the whole screen will freeze for a matter of seconds. In a matter of seconds can really depict the threat upon your life, with just in a matter of seconds. So I would say get good gear. Don't buy the cheap stuff off of Amazon. Just avoid that if you can. But if you can't, I understand that. Look, me and Bob, we make a living doing this, and I know some people really don't like it. But the military made a living doing this, and there's a reason why everybody wants what they have. So we're trying to get civilians to understand the need to be mentally equipped with these types of pieces of equipment, gear, the training, because the moment the power goes down, everything turns into a military operation. Everything. Going to get gas, you better plan your route. You better have a quick reaction force if you can't get back. If you get stuck, how are you going to signal people? Do you want to signal everybody? Or do you want to signal your family who, has the horses and the mule team to come and get you out of the mud? Everything becomes
again, that's where the Mesh-tastic system would come in so good, because you could have a quick reaction force a half a mile away with somebody just text. It doesn't matter what's down. Your cell phone's down, anything's down. That Mesh-tastic system's up and running. You could say a text, we need quick reaction force here right now. And you could have, assets show up within 30 seconds, maybe 40 seconds, that, the bad guys that are trying to assail you are not going to expect to be flanked like that. But that's where Mesh-tastic would come in absolutely good, because it's completely mobile. You can take it with you mobile.
Here's a little piece, but we only got about 2 minutes left. Here's a little piece of advice I'd like to give to people. Get you just a basic general map of your area. A general map of your area. Get 3 or 4, however many people that are your friends or that are your family members that all live within this area, and just get a basic 12-inch in circumference dinner plate, and draw a circle over where you live, and then make a coordinate out of everything. A zone, B zone, C zone, D zone. And if there's anything that happens, you can split all these zones up into subzones, but then you can give this map to anybody and say, hey, I'm in C zone, meet me here. Riots are in B zone. Because that's how
it's your area study. What you're talking about doing an area study. You can get from the USGC 7.5-minute geological maps, and those maps show your topography, roads, lakes, everything that's in your area is on that 7.5 minute USGC map.
Mhm.
Extremely good. You saw the one I had down at the Ops Center. We had, well, I know.
I got maps in all my vehicles.
Yeah.
For a reason. Maps
that
and
I
compass.
know everything. Radio signals. We live in the mountains. I know how to line up a radio where the valleys are at, so I can signal across mountain ranges because I know where the valleys are at, and I can transmit through those valleys. We actually did that one time, showing people how you would do that. So those 7.5 minute USGC maps, Texas Map has them, texasmap.com, I think, and you can get them for USGC. There's other people that have them, but they're a 7.5 minute map. I would highly recommend getting them, that quadrangle for your property. And there's 8 adjoining quadrangles that you can purchase, all the ones that touch yours, and you would have a really good idea of what's around you if you got that.
And when you come to the training, we talk about this type of stuff all the time. This is what we do. We pontificate back and forth, Bob and I and some others, about how to up our survivability, because that's been our job since we've become adults. Hell, when I was a kid, this is what I've been doing. And I think the time is pertinent. The time is now to get your training. Like I said, not from me. Go just be confident and accomplish a goal of having training, firearms and medical related. You never know, you may need both. Most likely you'll need medical before you ever do the firearm. I pray that's the way your life will pan out, but most likely I'll be wrong. All right. Real quick, can you give people the number to your store?
800-627-3809. That's again 800-627-3809. Ready-made resource. You get that?
Yep, ready-made resources. You got any last words?
I going back to what you said, I will say this. Nobody in hell is going to ever say, I had 2 pair of night vision. I had a year's food supply. I did this, that, and the other thing. The most important thing people need to do right now is make sure that you are right with the Lord Jesus Christ.
That's right.
If you've never read the Bible, go to the book of John. That's one of the Gospels, and you can read about the life of Jesus and the promises he made to those who believe in him. I would recommend people do that, because all other things will be towards our temporal salvation, but my eternal salvation is the most important thing I can participate in. I work out my salvation on a daily basis, is what the Bible says. God was gracious and revealed the love of his Son to me, forgave me of my sins. And that is the most important thing in my life. With that, I also have God instilled in me a tremendous role as the protector, provider for my family. That's why I do what I do. I want to be able to protect my wife, to provide for my wife, to protect my children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. I want to help protect my community. I want to help protect innocent life. I want to promote civility and law and order. And to do those things, which are all, I think, Christian values, training makes me far more capable of doing them than just saying, what do I do now?
Or hurting people unnecessarily.
Yes. So that's why I just recommend people, I leave them with that right. Your relationship with the God of the universe is the most important thing you need to get straight.
That's right. So real quick, not to sound like a Bible thumper, which I got called that recently. How funny. I got called that, right? And someone calls you and says, I'm not a Christian. Proverbs 13:9, the light of the righteous rejoices, but the lamp of the wicked will be put out. Amen.
Yes.
All right. Whoever despises the word brings destruction on himself, but he who reveres the commandment will be rewarded. Proverbs 13:13. That's why I say, start to separate yourself from this world now. Don't be caught up with them in their destruction that's coming. And finally, for some of you, a small elite member of you who still email me about how much you don't like me, stop emailing me. Don't listen to me. Joel Osteen's waiting for you in his church, by the way, for all you. Whoever guards his mouth preserves his life. He who opens wide his lips come to ruin. So be careful what you say. It may come back to get you. That's Proverbs 13:3. Bob, thank you so much for coming on today.
It's always a pleasure. Always. God bless.
It's a great time when we're on. Ladies and gentlemen, stay frosty. The enemy is out there. Take care.
Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum has said, "You will own nothing and you will love it." And that's represented by what's going on across the planet today, where the economy of the world is in free fall, and nowhere is it more in evidence than with our own President Biden deliberately trying to sabotage what we have. Access to food, other resources. So Americans are in a unique position, really for the first time in our history. We're going to have to provide for ourselves or subject ourselves to the whim of the government. Do you really trust a government to feed you that left 1,000 Americans behind enemy lines in Afghanistan? I don't think so. So where do you go? When you ask the question, who's the best prepper out there today? There's only one answer. Ready Made Resources and Robert Griswold. I call him King Prepper, and that's how a lot of people think of him. You have everything there you'd want, from night vision to storable food, how to prepare cooking in emergency situations, books and videos on how to prepare alternative energy, communication, first aid that you wouldn't think of, natural antibiotics, you name it, Bob has it. Now, here's the good thing about Bob Griswold that no one else does but him. You don't have to buy anything to talk to him. If you're not sure where to start with your preparation, no obligation phone call directly to Bob. You can talk to him for free. Most people will charge you an arm and a leg for a half-hour conversation. That's not Bob Griswold. He cares about helping America get prepared. Go to readymaderesources.com, or you can call the number directly at 800-627-3809. Again, that contact information, readymaderesources.com, for the best prepping outfit in the country, or call Bob Griswold directly, 800-627-3809.
Mountain State Survival covers your basis for your planning, prepping, evacuation, bugging in, or bugging out needs. They carry anything from educational material, camping supplies, emergency services supplies, food, first aid, survival kit and equipment, shooting gear, survival gear, tactical gear. They carry it all. They got it in stock. Give Mountain State Survival a ring. That's mountain-state-survival.com. Get this type of supplies while you still can. 304-517-6935. Mountain State Survival is one of the only places that I know of currently that is still carrying the delicious Peak Refuel meal that is ready to eat. It's personally the only thing that I eat at this point whenever I go out camping, whenever we have any type of emergency or disaster situation. That is the meal that I stick with, and you can find that at mountain-state-survival.com. Use REKKR5 for a 5% discount on your overall purchase. That's REKKR 5. mountainstatesurvival.com.
This show on the Heroes Nation app. Heroes Nation is the Heroes Nation app you can download in the App Store. It's up and coming. They got a lot of cool information on there. That is the main backup site so far for the American Vindicta show. We'll also have some stuff on there that won't be on YouTube. It won't be on Rumble. It'll either be only on the gsradio.net, who is the host of the American Vindicta Show, or it will only be an exclusive for Heroes Nation. And with that, I mean, stuff that we're doing with the cave exploration, with the archaeological stuff. I'm going to start getting into a lot of paranormal talks and, coming at that from my law enforcement and Christian perspective, and be having guests on, and that will be exclusive to Heroes Nation. So make sure that you give them some love. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, everybody, for supporting me. God bless you, and have a good day.